My mindset is I don't want anyone in my family to work again. Building wealth so that my future generations don't have to struggle through financial literacy. I gave you guys some ideas that you can do with $0. I gave you guys some ideas you can do when you have a little more disposable income. Things I'm doing as a broke college student to build generational wealth with little to no disposable income, hence broke college student. The number one thing that I prioritize is becoming financially literate and never stop learning. Any opportunity that I find to learn something new that will help me multiply my money, I am investing time into learning. I've dabbled in the stock market, crypto, meme coins, life insurance, trust funds, REITs, you name it, I've learned about it, just because anything that I can put my money into and have it grow for me passively is right up my alley. I'm happy to be alive in the era of social media just because there's so many tools and resources available to us to help us learn. TikTok gets a lot of hate, but I've learned more from TikTok than I have in school about financial literacy. I learned about REITs, which is real estate investment trust. That's another tool that helps you generate income passively. I've learned about trust. I've learned about life insurance policies. I've learned about meme coins. I've learned how to transfer cryptocurrencies. Like, no one was going to teach me these things. I discovered something. I fell down a rabbit hole on TikTok. I learned as much information I could. I'm like a sponge. I absorb all the knowledge that I can about a certain topic. Then I take it to YouTube. I dissect that whole space on YouTube, learn everything I can from all the free tools available. Then I try it out. I invest with little to no money. Sometimes I invest using just $10, especially when I'm learning something new. I use a little bit of money, the least amount of money required, so I can get familiar and learn. It's a learning experience. I also read a lot of books. I love getting information from social media and online, but I feel like it's best to pick up a book, especially because the books might teach you the fundamental basics. These books have been around for years before social media, so you want to use all your available resources. Financial literacy is the main reason why a lot of people never build wealth, because they don't know how to. They don't know what they should be doing with their money. The average person thinks that working a 9-to-5 and retiring and living off your 401k is great, and somehow you'll magically get a bigger house, get a nicer car, be able to take care of your kids. But my mindset is I don't want anyone in my family to work again. I don't want my grandkids, my great-grandkids, I don't want them to struggle. I don't want them to go through anything that I'm going through. I feel like that's my whole purpose on earth. Building wealth so that my future generations don't have to struggle through financial literacy. The next thing that I prioritize is zero debt accumulation. Now, I am pretty young, so I don't have like a house. I don't have a bunch of student loans that I have to pay off. I am in school and I'm working to pay my tuition. I only accept loan offers that I don't have to pay back because I don't want to get myself into debt. Now, you shouldn't fear debt because you need to be able to leverage your debt at some point. But as a broke college student, having zero debt is very beneficial to me. I don't carry balances on my credit cards because I'm trying to build my credit. I use my credit cards, don't get me wrong, but I pay the balance off in full at the due date, and I don't use my credit cards between the due date and the statement close date, because that is when your bank reports your information to the credit bureaus. If you want to grow your credit, don't use your credit card between the due date and the statement balance date. That is the hack I've learned on TikTok to build my credit every month. Every month I keep my utilization at 0. My score raises like 10, 20 points. That's the best thing I've learned out of TikTok, guys. Seriously. I've been using that to my advantage since like 2021. And this is easier said than done. Obviously, you have to be making more than you're spending. If you can, try to keep your debt at $0 until you can afford to have debt that you can leverage to put back into streams of income that is passive. The next thing on my list is I save more than I spend. I know we've all heard this before, but if you're trying to build wealth, you definitely should be saving more than you're spending. You should never There should never be more money leaving your bank account than is coming in, because you're going to remain stagnant. And if you're familiar with my content, the number one thing I don't like is being stagnant in the same position your whole life. Like, you're literally wasting your opportunity here on earth. No shade, that was a little harsh, but yeah, save more than you spend, which leads me into my second point: create a budget for you. In order for me to save more than I spend, I came up with a budget that aligns with those goals. So for me, that looks like 45% of my income goes into long-term savings, 20% goes towards bills, 25% goes towards life expenses like shopping, eating out, groceries, 10% goes towards travel. Now, this is customized to me. This might not be realistic for you. You may have different priorities, but this what works for me. Every deposit that comes to my bank account, 45% of that is going into my high yield savings account, building interest. Now, I say high yield savings account because the interest rates are much higher than a traditional savings account. I have many savings accounts. My long-term savings account, I use Telus, which my mom put me onto. They give me the highest interest rate. Then I use my bank savings account to pay my bills. Whenever I know I have bills coming up, I schedule my bills to be pulled from my savings account instead of checking, because my checking account serves another purpose, which is my daily spending. I sat down and really came up with this budgeting and broke it down into major detail so that I can track my finances, because as soon as I get paid, my money would be gone within 3 days, and I would sit there and wonder, like, where did my money go? Like, this is not adding up. Coming up with this budgeting strategy really helped me because I can allocate every dollar in my account and I send it out to different accounts to make sure that I'm still on track. For example, 45% goes into Telus for my long-term savings, 20% goes into bills. I'm banking with HSBC, so that's where all of my bills are being paid from. This is also where I receive my direct deposit, so all of the money is leaving this account into other accounts. I also use Chime. Chime is for everyday spending, like shopping, eating out, stuff like that. I use my Chime checking for everyday spending, my Chime savings for if I'm saving towards a shopping purchase, like if I want to buy some shoes, I would allocate that money into my Chime savings account so it accumulates until I can afford the shoes. I don't just go out and make a huge purchase because I have more important priorities than shopping right now. I'm trying to change my life, and buying a pair of shoes is not going to bring money back into my pocket. Now, I'm not like super strict with myself. If I know I need a new pair of shoes for work, I'm gonna buy the shoes, but I'm just more mindful of how I spend my money these days, and I'm not just like going out. If I want something today, I'm not gonna go buy it later on that same day, because that's something I'm guilty of. Come up with a budget that works for you. A tip to do that is come up with your main expensive categories, like the main things that you want to put money towards: your long-term savings, your bills, your daily spending, travel, or whatever else you're into, and come up with a percentage for each of those things that align with the goals you're trying to reach. Those are the things that I'm doing with $0 to help me build generational wealth. Here are some of the things that I plan to incorporate into my life once I have a little more disposable income. The first thing I'm going to be doing once I have a little bit of wiggle room is getting a life insurance policy with a high cash value. Now, if you've never heard of this before, a life insurance policy is usually like for when you're dead, I know, bleak, so that your family doesn't have to come out of pocket to pay your debt or pay for your funeral. Life insurance policies can be very beneficial whilst you're living because they have a living benefit. I want to start a life insurance policy with a high cash value so that I can borrow against it and invest into assets that will bring me passive income. Now, the next thing I'm going to be doing is asset shopping. This is the thing I'm most looking forward to, shopping for assets. I'm more excited to shop for assets than a pink Mini Kelly with palladium hardware specifically, because I'm obsessed and I think that is my dream bag right now. But yeah, once I have a little more disposable income, once I have my life insurance policy set up, I'm going to borrow against that and go shopping for assets. I've been thinking of getting into real estate. Real estate is where it's at. Personally, I want to get into short-term rentals or being a landlord, owning parking lots, things like that. I want to think big so I don't keep myself in a box and keep my money in a box too. After I have my life insurance policy and I purchase my first set of assets, I'm going to put all of that into a trust, because a trust is a tool that will help me keep that generational wealth. I'm going to put all of my assets into a trust so that I own nothing, and that my personal trust or my family trust or my business trust owns all of my assets, so that it remains in my family and it'll be passed down from generation to generation. If I own my assets and something happens to me where I get sued, or I don't know, something goes wrong, that asset can be easily taken away from me, because I'm just a human. I'm also an entity, but we're not going to go down that rabbit hole in this video. I'm going to put my assets into a trust because it will protect my assets from probate or foreclosure or whatever. I don't know the details, I'm still learning about that. But yes, this tool will ensure that all of my assets are staying within my family for generations and generations and generations. And I feel like that is the key to generational wealth. Let's just say I become a millionaire in my lifetime. There's no guarantee that that money will be passed down to my kids. There is nothing preventing my children from blowing my fortune. There's nothing to guarantee that my net worth will be passed down and live on throughout all of my generations. This is why having a trust is important. That's all the knowledge I have for you guys today. I hope that you learned a few things that you can incorporate into your life. Even if you have $0, you can still start to think about generational wealth. I gave you guys some ideas that you can do with $0. I gave you guys some ideas you can do when you have a little more disposable income. So yeah, thanks for tuning in. You can still start to think about generational wealth and building wealth for your future generations. I gave you guys some ideas that you can do with $0. I gave you guys some ideas you can do when you have a little more disposable income. So yeah, thanks for tuning in.